All right. Well, as long as the wheels stay on the tractor today, which if they don't, at least I got a whole box of brand new U-bolts that showed up today to finish doing the other 3 wheels. So, you know, we're at least prepared. But I have to run out to cousin Nick's real quick because he said he's got about 200 gallon left in his tanks that he wants gone. So he said if I come get it, I can just have it, and that should be plenty to get me finished up. So gotta go do that, come back, fuel the tractor up, check it over real quick, and we're good to go. But at least these beans down here finally turned green again. I just have to come over here. It's one of my goals for this week because we're supposed to be, after today, we're supposed to have rain the rest of the week, so I can actually get some stuff done that doesn't involve field work. Because when it's nice out, you're trying to get this done, but I need to get my 4-wheeler sprayer working because I need to come through here and run through all the spots where I had plugged nozzles and burn it, or burn off the stuff that didn't. But even these guys, I thought these guys were dead for sure. I mean, they looked terrible. But even in the last 2 days, these guys have all put on new leaves, all of them. So probably be a little thin here on the outside, but if they make it to canopy, I'll be happy. And then these are coming back with a vengeance. And this has only been in like the last 2 days. Before that, they still just looked kind of like dead. But when they came back, they came back. So I bet they're canopied out by the end of next week. But like right here, this mare's tail didn't get anything. But it's real easy to see where the miss was because you got 2 rows of beans that never got burnt, so they look fine. And I know it had to have just been, well, I want to say it had to have just been a temperature thing, but it doesn't make any sense why this field, well, I guess I shouldn't say that. I guess it does kind of make sense because this field got sprayed earlier in the day and it was closer to dark when I sprayed that other field, so it wasn't as hot when I sprayed that other field, but it was just as hot the next day. I don't know. I don't know what, I mean, it could have been the heat with the surfactant in the Roundup. It could have been the heat with the Enlist. It could have been all of the above. It could have been something hung up in the booms in that white mushy shit that's been plaguing me from the corn herbicide. It just, like I said, spraying this year has been a nightmare just from beginning to. And then I was also thinking last night while I was spraying, it's like, you know what, I've never necessarily heard of such a thing, and maybe some of you guys have, or maybe I'm just crazy, but I'm wondering too if it's a possibility that it was that heat affecting how well that stuff was mixing in the tank. I mean, like I say, I've never actually physically heard of that being a problem, but being a smaller tank on my sprayer and a metal one at that, the surface of the tank's going to be hotter, and there's not a whole lot of there's a lot of tank surface area compared to the actual amount of liquid in the tank because it's only a 200 gallon tank. So that, I mean, I guess that could be a possibility too. Is it just the heat was heating the tank up and that was affecting how everything was mixing in the tank too? I don't know if that is such a thing. I guess it's nothing I've ever heard discussed, probably because nobody uses sprayers as small as I do anymore. But I don't know, maybe one of you guys has heard of something like that. But anyway, we're not spraying today. We're gonna finish side dressing so that's off the table. And then once that's off the table, we can pretty much coast. We're down to getting wheat cut and touching up some beans, and we can finally take a breath, which will be nice. Alright, just dropped the nurse tank. I don't know if that was a good spot to stage it or not. There's really not any good places here. At least when there's corn up. When there's no corn, or when you're planting, it ain't that big of a deal because you don't got to worry about really. But you can definitely tell this year where all the low ground is that holds water, because you got corn that goes from really nice and green to yeller. But we're about to fix that with a little bit of nitrogen. I got to figure out how much. I didn't look to see exactly how much is in the nurse tank, and I got to look and see how much is in the tank on the applicator and figure it up. And I'm probably going to turn my pump up so that I can use up everything here. That way I don't have to have anything sitting in the tank. But we shall see. Okay, gotta put fuel in the tractor. I got a handy dandy wrench here. Real quick, we're gonna look. There's roughly, I should have checked before we came here, but there was, I know there was 200 gallon. I think it went a little over, because the marks on that tank are actually graduated correctly for a fluid level in a cylinder. And there's a 196 mark, and then the next one's 219. It seems like it was halfway between those two. And one thing about these tanks, when there ain't no sunlight, you can't see squat. At least when it's not sloshing around. I think it's right here. Move, damn you. Oh, no, it's damn near full. I'd say it's closer to that 280 mark, 290 mark. It's like, oh, now I see it. It's right here. So about 270 in there. So let's figure, nope, that one. So, and then divide that by, let's just figure 14. I think it's actually like 14 3/4 over there, 33.5. So we'll just leave that pump set where it's at, and if I run a little short, I'll run a little short. If I have a little extra, I got a little extra. But I'd rather, I guess at this point, I'd rather not, knowing that I thought I was going to have more excess than that. So, and I checked this wheel, and there's no signs that it moved. So that's good. Like I say, I got new U-bolts to do the other wheels before the duals go back on. The other thing I want to do before the duals go back on, because this kind of worked out decent, is I would like to weigh this thing without the duals on it, see how much it weighs. Because if I can haul this thing on the gooseneck, I'd really like to take this thing to Rantoul if I can. If I can find somebody to get me a disc down there. Because that's the worst, that's the bad part, is if I take this, I can't haul a disc, because this thing would probably, basically, if it is light enough, it would max out the trailer. I'd have enough, still hasn't used any oil. I'd have enough to get the little 112 Moline on there for Shelly and her trailer, and that would be, oh, scared the shit out of me. I forgot my can. It's like, my God, what's falling apart now? If I remember right, the book says shipping weight on this is, I think the book says shipping weight on this is 20,000, I think. but it doesn't say with what wheel options, whether it's got dual. It doesn't say optioned how. But if it's closer to like 15, 16,000, then I can haul it on the gooseneck. And I think it would be short enough to still be under height. Don't know why that knob sticks so bad. So let me get some fuel in this old girl and we'll go have at it. Shouldn't be, it's gonna take me longer to do all the end rows on that chopped up piece than it is to actually applicate the whole thing. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get this field done, and the little triangle piece done, and the one on the other side of the fence line done, and see how much 28 I have left after doing all those, and then figure out what I got left and what I can turn my rate up to. And then when we do the front field that you can see from the road, that's where we'll pour the nitrogen on, because you make the front field look good, because that's the one everybody's going to see. Forget, turn that valve on. big field, or the big patch, whatever you want to call that, that's done. The little triangle's done. I got these end rows done just because I had to drive through them to get back and forth to the tank. So I still have to do the other side of the tree line, that 3 acres, 3.5, and then this. And I should have enough out of here now. Oh yeah, I got plenty out of here. So basically it's, figure 220 gallon, if that 219 is accurate. I think this thing's got a build tag on it. I need to do some Google and see if the company's still even in business, and see if I can get a new decal for this thing. That would be nice. Tell you what, I've seen 2 guys out with sprayers so far today. I don't know if it's a good day to be spraying. I mean, it could just be me. Maybe some guys are braver than I am. Anyhow, apparently the decal on that's pretty spot on, because there was 40 in here according to the sticker, 220 in there. Now there's 260 in here. So, and before anybody says just have another decal made, the problem with just having another decal made at a decal shop is right here is the last graduation that you can actually read, and from here up there's you can't read anything. So it's hard to copy it when you don't have the entire decal to have copied. But anyhow, on to the other side of the tree line. Settle down for a minute so I know how much we got left, but I dare say we ought to be able to turn up the pump. Set the toolbar down and it makes the level gauge right. That's a tire getter. Come on, settle down. All right, give me it. Let me let this thing sit here. Alright, there's about 150 gallon in there, basically half a tank, which 4 acres, you divide that out, comes out to I think it's 37.5. So I turned the pump up a smidge, and I guess we'll just see how we turn out. I don't think I went enough to run out, but hopefully I don't end up with too much left over. sit. See how we did on. Oh, there's not a whole lot left. Got that just about right. Probably 15 gallon left. So I think all we're gonna do is go over to the other side in the long rows and just double it up until we run out. I guess it'll be some nice green corn over there. Gotta be about out. Them balls are getting awful shaky, like it's sucking air. Dressing is complete. Not too bad. Surprisingly few kinks that needed worked out. They're being thrown together with no prior knowledge of applicators other than the little bit that I've run them. I don't think I did too bad. So let me run this thing home, or well, back to Mom and Dad's for now. The 150's got to hang out over there because we got to do them U-bolts, and that's where all the good tools are. And I got to come back and get the nurse tank, and then real quick we'll just kind of have a quick final thoughts on the setup we got going on here. And dang, nurse tank must have been sitting on a little bit more of a forward incline than I thought, because now all of a sudden it's got about 50 gallon in it again. So it must have been just enough downhill. It doesn't look that bad, but anyhow, I guess we'll pump that off into the bulk tank and call her good. So as far as this setup goes, I am pretty well satisfied with it. The toolbar, I don't really see anything on there that I need to or want to change. It works pretty much as intended. Worked out really good, actually. Like I said in the last video, the only thing I need to do is I'm going to do one of two things. I either want to see if Yetter knives will fit this, or I need to take these knives and slot them going in the right direction, because this whole knife assembly has to get closer to the coulter so trash doesn't build up right here. And apparently that one rocked back a little bit because I had them set closer to the coulter than that. But anyhow, and I didn't run over enough ground to wear the coulter that much. So, but Yetter knives are actually built heavier. The entire knife's thicker. They're slotted in the right direction. They've got a longer tail underneath the tube to keep it clean. So if a Yetter knife will fit, that would be even better. But I got a few busted springs that need replaced. But judging by the brakes, they were cracked beforehand, and I just finished them off. Running it on the four-wheel drive is definitely the way to go. I'm probably going to plan on just applicating with that from here on out. For one, all the wet holes that I farm, with that on there, it doesn't matter, wet, dry, standing water, whatever, it walks right through without even slipping a tire or sliding around. So you do that much less damage. If it is a little wet, you're going to do a lot less ground compaction because you got more footprint. Even if it's dry, you're doing a lot less root zone compaction because you got a lot bigger footprint. And that tractor doesn't weigh, it looks big, but if you take all this, if you took the fiberglass and everything, there's nothing to that tractor. It doesn't weigh squat. It follows, I mean, going around curves or planting or following where you plant around a curve doesn't knock a single thing down. You hardly knock anything down with it turning on the headlands, because the front and rear tires tracking the same track. It just way better option than a row crop tractor as far as, and then you got more ground clearance too, because the front, you don't have the shorter clearance under the front axle like you would on a wide front. The only thing that could make it better is if I can get this thing up on 42-inch rubber, but you'd have to, A, I don't know if you could, because I think the front tires might get into the cab, and B, you'd have to make a stop for both sides of the steering cylinder, because you wouldn't be able to turn it sharp, because with the 38s on there, they dang near touch at full lock as it is. At least with the duals on. With the duals off, you'd be all right, but with the duals on, you wouldn't be able to turn it short. So that's kind of the plan, is to just from here on out, just we're applicating with the 4150, which when I built this, that wasn't even like a thought, was that, like, didn't even consider putting or applicating with this thing. Which now that that's kind of the plan, Dad and I were talking about the possibility of eliminating the cart, because now the cart is what does most of the damage when you turn it on the headlands, and taking that tank and just mounting it right above the rear wheels, making a bracket that will sit on the axle flanges right here, and just setting it right here across the back axle. Which I didn't put saddle tanks, I didn't want saddle tanks when I was planning on just pulling it with the 1950T or the 1800. Two reasons, actually three reasons. First one, it makes getting on and off the tractor suck. Second reason, it makes your forward visibility suck. And the third reason, I care too much about those tractors to have fertilizer anywhere near them. All it takes is for a hose to break or a fitting to leak or to accidentally overfill a tank, and next thing you know, the tractor is covered in fertilizer. And those tractors are too nice, and I care about them too much, and I just didn't want fertilizer anywhere near the tractor, which is why we ended up doing the cart. But, and I'm not saying I don't care about this tractor. I like this tractor, I care about this tractor, but if I get a little bit of fertilizer on it, it's not like it's the 1950T or the 1800. And we can probably figure up a way to build in some sort of drip pan, so that if there is a small leak or whatever, it goes out the pan and onto the ground or whatever, it doesn't get on the tractor. The only thing would be I'd still have to be careful filling, because I did overfill that one time in this menagerie of stuff, and boy does it make a nice fountain. I was filling it, and I think I was fiddling with something on the toolbar, and I wasn't paying attention, and next thing I know, I turned around and there's a nice 28 fountain coming out the top, and it was going everywhere. But or the other option is just leave the cart, because in big fields it's really not that big of a deal. So you just leave the cart assembled, leave the tongue and everything, and you put a saddle tank on the back of the 4150, and you can do small fields or odd shaped fields where you do most of your damage with just the tractor and toolbar to reduce your damage. And then when you get into a big field where you want the capacity, then you could throw this tank back behind it and have more capacity for in between fills. So that's an option too. I mean, I got the cart, might as well use it, and it works fine. And for everybody who's worried about the tongue being bent, guess what? The tongue's not bent. It just had the weight of 3,000 pounds, or weight of 300 gallons sitting on it, so it's going to ant a little bit. But it worked out nice, because like when you're going down the road or when you're going through the field, you can watch the tongue, and it does this, and it acts like a shock absorber rather than beating the crap out of everything else. It kind of just does, just gently just kind of bounces along. So, but everything held up, chains held up, chain stayed tight, nothing broke, nothing bent. I'd call it a success. The only place that it really struggles, like I've said, And I'm sure if you were pulling, I'm sure guys that like side dress anhydrous and stuff probably have the same issue when they're pulling their anhydrous carts and whatnot. On side hills, the cart likes to walk. It can't, it tries to slide down the hill, and it didn't become as big of an issue until I put it behind that. But with that, if you're getting off of a row and you got to make a correction, it doesn't take long to figure out. When you make a correction, you don't just jerk the wheel and get back on the row. You just kind of ease it around a little bit, because if you just go rant, it throws the hitch over, and then it throws the cart over onto a row. So I did that more than once. But all in all, not too bad, and definitely cheaper than buying a actual applicator for the time being. So I am happy with it, and I'm glad I put it behind the 4150, because like I said, wet, dry, standing water, it didn't matter. She walked right through it, and you didn't notice the weight nearly as much. So all in all, I give it like a B+. There are a few things that could be tweaked, but, and like I say, the toolbar, I am perfectly happy with the way that is. I don't think I'm going to change a thing on it. So I'll just have to get me some RV antifreeze so we can winterize the pump and clean everything up. And I got a feeling that the vast majority of this 4th of July week is going to be cleaning stuff up and possibly spot spraying beans, which I'm not really done. I'm not done spraying yet either. I mean, obviously there might be a second pass on some beans maybe, but I got some rodent control that I got to go pick up tomorrow that I'm going to try out. It's a new, it was new last year, which we can talk more about that later, but I got that. I'm going to try to spray on a bean field and see what it does with the deer, and then probably hopefully this week, if not beginning part of next week. I got to do it before the corn gets too tall for me to get over it, but I also want it to be canopied out so I don't waste as much. We got to go down in the muck and get some manganese put on that, because it's going to be wanting it here pretty quick. But you don't want to do it. You're better off to do it as its own application, not mixed in with a herbicide, because it applies better that way. And you want to do it when the corn's canopied so you don't waste as much, because it doesn't do any good going on the ground. You got to get it on the plant. So I just got to keep an eye on that down there and see when it's about ready to, or see when it's getting close to canopying, but I can still get over it with the tractor and sprayer. So that's the two big spraying events that we still got to get done. So anyhow, I guess that takes care of what we needed to talk about here, and everything's home and everything's good, and the pressure's finally off, and we can finally sit back and breathe. So with that being said, that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one.